Anthony Casablanca is my guest today, and we are going to be talking about grief in the workplace because returning to work while you're grieving can be one of the most difficult things to do. So Anthony has a very interesting background that has led to the work that he and his brother are doing today, and he can explain it way better than I can. So welcome, Anthony. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much. It's a privilege to be here. Thanks.
So tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing and why you feel it's so important to do it.
Sure. So this is a culmination of a couple of years worth of research and work. My brother Guy is a licensed funeral director, a duly licensed funeral director. Spent years in funeral service, helping families through the funeral process, grieving families through the funeral process. And has had lots of exposure to and hears more often than you would believe from family members about how my work environment is not helping me. They are complicating this either through their leave policies or an inflexible boss or just not understanding what I'm going through. He hears that a lot in the interactions that he has with families. And so his funeral background and his background in dealing with grieving families, and my background, I spent 31 years with Hillenbrand Industries, and 28 of those was with they own a Batesville casket company, which is the largest casket provider in the world. And so I have a funeral service background from that side, but more importantly, a leadership background. In those 31 years, I was in a whole host of leadership roles. The last three roles that I had, spanning probably 10 or 12 years, was as the vice president of human resources, and then I was their vice president of supply chain, and finally I was president of a smaller operating company. So we decided to come together and address this issue from a very broad perspective. Because grief is not just driven by the loss of a loved one, it's driven by any loss that sort of reshapes your reality, your current reality. And so when you look at grief that way, you are right. There are a lot of people returning to work, be it they were at work Friday and there's some emotionally traumatic event that happens over the weekend and they come in Monday, or there's some prolonged thing, right, where there's actually a gap in their work where they're off for a week because of a funeral or whatever, and they're coming back to work on Monday. But there are a lot of people. You can get to a very large number without throwing a lot of things in the category. But if you think about things like divorce and cancer diagnosis and opioid addictions and Alzheimer's diagnosis, just to name a few, you can quickly get to, millions of people coming to work every day in some stage of grief. And Guy and I decided that there was a gap there, particularly from a leadership perspective, right? Mm-hmm. So while what we do isn't going to change what that person is feeling, we hope that we can show leaders how they can help grieving people integrate into the workplace and excel while they're grieving, by being flexible and understanding better how to lead them and what grief really means. So that's what we're working on. That's what we're trying to do.